The scene begins with Queen Kane, who is asking Captain Gosset to prepare the armies for the war against Trivantes. In the course of their conversation, Lord Harlan signals Magra that the Trivantes have contacted them and want to meet. Later, Magra visits Queen Kane alone and suggests she find a way to defeat the Trivantes without losing a single life. If she succeeds, the people will start loving her. After a bit of thinking, Kane finally agrees, but she refuses to engage in negotiations with the common politicians, so Magra offers to act as her emissary. As Magra is about to leave, Kane says that the treaty will require the Trivantes to make a formal apology and reparations for the attack on Kanzua. Magra is taken aback by the demands, as she knows that the Trivantes will never agree to something they haven't done. She tries to convince her sister to think of another way, but the latter has made up her mind. Later, Coffin approaches Toad while he is practicing his fighting techniques. Coffin offers to practice with him, but Toad replies that he only fights with troops. Despite this, Coffin strikes him from behind, but Toad quickly grabs him and puts his sword at Coffin's neck. After this, Coffin becomes emotional and mentions that he has always failed to protect his loved ones when it mattered the most. Hence, he wants Toad to train him and turn him into a warrior. Moved by the statement, Toad finally agrees. In the following scene, Idovas shows Ren some new blades and reveals that their entire battalion is being rearmed. Ren points out that the council will be sending a peace treaty to Payan, but Idovas responds that it's the Queen's trick, since she wants to initiate a fight. He also asserts that his army has to be ready to slaughter the Queen. Hearing this, Ren becomes worried and advises Idovas to not oppose the council. However, Ido replies that he won't be going to the meeting, but instead, she will. On the other hand, Baba Voss enters Payan City with his group. Kamakti Jun assembles some data and informs them that Princess Magra is secure there, but he hasn't heard anything about Coffin. Additionally, he makes the decision to not approach the Queen because she thinks he is already dead. He assures them that he will organize some forces just in case they need to confront the Queen. Before leaving, he tells Baba Voss to be cautious because he is now in the Queen's domain. After that, Baba Voss tells Paris to stay outside, while he and Hanua go in search of Magra. Just then, the guards stop them at the entrance, hence, Baba Voss is forced to subdue them. He then enters the palace and starts screaming for Magra, while some guards quickly surround him. Fortunately, Magra comes downstairs and tells the guards to stand down. Finally, the family is reunited. However, the reunion doesn't last long as Lord Harlan steps in and announces himself as Magra's new husband. This enraged Baba Voss and he threatens to cut off his throat if he doesn't stop talking. Just then, the Queen arrives there and embraces Hanua while Magra tells Baba Voss to keep his temper. The Queen then extends an invitation for dinner, celebrating the family reunion. During the dinner, the Queen exposes that Baba Voss is a slaver, so Harlan makes fun of him. Additionally, she antagonizes Magra by bringing up her multiple husbands, but Paris counters that Magra has dedicated her entire life to caring for Baba Voss and her children. Meanwhile, Tamakti Jun visits Toad and inquires if he remembers him. Toad is alarmed since the Queen said Tamakti Jun committed suicide. Tamakti Jun replies that the Queen always had an issue with truth. Elsewhere at the dinner, Queen Kane makes it known that Magra wants to sign a peace agreement with Trivantes. Hearing this, Baba Voss asserts that the Trivantes won't consent to the peace deal, as they have never bowed their heads to anyone. Despite the odds stacked against them, Magra chooses to attempt the peace deal. Hanua asks her to accompany her, but Magra declines since she thinks her kids are secure at Pensa. Later, Magra and Baba Voss attempt to resolve their interpersonal difficulties. Baba Voss asks her to leave Pensa and move to the mountains so that they can live happily, as they did before. However, Magra mentions that she cannot do so. She then reveals that her father, before his death, told her to save their people from Cain, but she failed. As a result, numerous lives perished. When Baba Voss asks if she wants to be a queen, she responds, "Only as long as I make peace." She also tells him that Hanua and Coffin will never be safe if she flees the area by turning the Queen against them. Following this, Toad takes Magra and Baba Voss to a cottage where Tamakti Jun is waiting for them. Tamakti Jun claims that he will gather as many witchfinders as possible in an effort to overthrow the Queen. But it won't be that simple. He asserts that a peace treaty won't be signed until Queen Kane assumes the throne. Hearing this, Magra instructs him to gather the witchfinders while she handles the laws. She also discloses her intentions to take the Queen's throne. Inside the kingdom, Lord Harlan receives a telegram from Trivantes, and when he reads it, he panics. He then finds his brother's head in a bag and breaks down in despair. After hearing his cries, Magra runs over to him and apologizes. In the meantime, an upset Queen goes to Coffin and tells him about her lost child. one thing leads to another and she starts touching him inappropriately. The following scene depicts Paris experiencing a nightmare. When Haniwa hears her voice, she rushes to Paris and calms her down. After a while, Paris exclaims that Babavos and Magra shouldn't head for the treaty, as she had a dream about blood and treachery. However, it is too late as Haniwa informs her that they have already left. Hearing this, Paris starts panicking, but Haniwa consoles her and makes the decision to go to her parents. She then mounts on a horse and starts her long journey alone. On the other hand, Idovos orders Ren to take precautions to prevent the signing of the peace pact. Confused, Ren asks about what's wrong if they offer the peace deal, to which Idovos asserts that the queen is assembling an increasing number of soldiers to attack them. He then hands her a batch and promotes her to a captain. After a while, Idovos gives Ren some food covered in a cloth and bids her goodbye. In the meantime, Babavos, Lord Harlan, and Princess Magra are en route to the meeting with Trivantes. A little while later, Haniwa is seen riding her horse and approaching her parents. In Pensa, Kafun is training in combat with Toad. After repeatedly losing, Toad tells him to wear a blindfold because his sight isn't helping. As soon as the fight resumes, Kafun loses his sword, and this time, he also gets hurt. Despite this, Kafun still wants to fight, but Toad departs, mentioning that the day's training is over. Elsewhere, when the Payans and Triventions meet, the commanders of both sides come to the consensus that all people entering the camp must be unarmed and that the soldiers must keep their companies outside the tent. Following this, both sides' soldiers start checking each other before entering the camp. Ren's food is also examined, but it is found to be clear. During the procedure, Haniwa shows up at their site and tells her parents about Paris's dream. Hearing this, Magra responds that if they leave the meeting right away, the war will undoubtedly be declared. Worried, Haniwa reverts to Babavos, but he also assures her that everything will be fine. After this, Magra departs and the meeting commences. In Pensa, as Kafun is readying his horse, Queen Kane approaches him. They talk for a while and soon, Kafun takes her on a horseback ride. They then enjoy each other's company, which makes them close. Back at the camp, Babavos recognizes Ren's voice and asks about it to Haniwa. Haniwa responds that it is the same girl who assisted them in escaping Trivantes. At the meeting, Magra requests the Triventions to formally apologize for attacking Kanzua. However, this only enraged Commander Watts, and he refuses to apologize for something they did not do. Watts asserts that they didn't conceal anything, and if they had, they wouldn't have returned Kerrigan's head out of politeness. Hearing this, Harlan gets enraged and as a result, he attacks Watts, prompting the meeting to be terminated. In the next scene, Magra accuses Harlan of destroying their chance for a peaceful settlement. However, Harlan assures her that they still have a shot. He then reveals that he has scheduled a personal meeting with Ambassador Scopus. He says that they will discuss the terms of peace in the evening, and then pretend to discuss the same thing again at the table the next morning. Everyone agrees to the plan, but Babavos forbids Harlan from going to the meeting, as he may create a ruckus again. When Harlan disagrees, the two start bickering. Annoyed at her husband's immature behavior, Magra stops the duo and explains her strategy. She mentions that all three of them will attend the meeting, but Harlan is not permitted to speak or else Babavos will deal with him. Later, when Ren opens her food, she finds a knife inside. She then exits the building and meets Haniwa. Soon, the two of them ascend to the top of an abandoned building and begin conversing. Haniwa talks about how much she missed Ren after they split up. After this, the two become emotional and promise to not attack each other, even if their tribes go to war. They then embrace each other and make out. In the meantime, Magra persuades Scopus in the meeting, saying that she will disavow their apology and let the truth be known once she will be a queen. Elsewhere in Pensa, Queen Kane and Kafun eat dinner together. Just then, the two come close and get intimate, something which the queen has always wanted. The following day, Toad goes to Paris, who advises him to take care of Kafun. When Toad inquires as to why she believes in him, Paris responds, "You're a good man with a stupid name." Meanwhile, Queen Kane approaches Kafun outside and asks him if he regrets last night. She also comforts him by stating that new things are thrilling but also exciting. Kafun appears uncertain about whom to believe, so the queen asks him to make a vow that they won't lie to one another, to which Kafun agrees. In the camp, another meeting between the Payans and the Trivantes takes place, and this time, the Trivantes consents to fabricate an apology in exchange for some borders on their map. As a result, both parties come to an understanding and finally draw a common conclusion to the peace accord. Before leaving, Scopus also warns that if the queen's practice of embracing sight continues, they will destroy the Payan kingdom. Later, Ren visits Haniwa and informs her that the peace is predicated on a number of lies and that she doesn't think it will hold. Haniwa makes an effort to comfort her, and they spend some private time together. At night, while everyone is asleep, Baba Voss hears some invaders slaughtering the troops. Wasting no time, he pursues them and kills one of them. Hearing the disturbance, Ren and Hanua also wake up. Upon entering the camp, the invaders murder Commander Watts. Ambassador Scopus wakes up and attempts to flee, but as soon as he exits the tent, he gets killed. Just as Baba Voss approaches Scopus, Ren arrives and notices him with a knife. This makes her think as if Baba Voss killed the ambassador. Enraged, she puts a knife on Hanua's neck and accuses her of being a part of the plot. Hanua tries to explain her innocence, but Ren has none of it and leaves the place, disappointed. After some time, Magra examines the soldier's mark and discovers that the assassins are none other than their own people. Here, it finally dawns on them that Queen Kane is responsible for everything. In fact, she never wanted the treaty, and the conference served just as a pretext for her to start a war. Meanwhile at the realm, the queen visits Coffin once more and sleeps with him. The following morning, Magra arrives in Pensa and goes up to Kane while she is eating breakfast. Magra throws her food aside and leaves in a furious manner. On the other hand, when Ren runs into Ito Voss, she tells him that Baba Voss was in charge of the assassins. This stuns Ito, as he learns that his brother will fight for the queen. He then inquires as to how she was the only survivor of the assault. Hearing this, Ren questions him if he thinks that she's a traitor, to which he replies no. However, he demands an answer to it. Just then, Ren starts solving the puzzle in Ito's hand, and reveals that she can see. Subscribe and hit that like button to help grow our channel. And don't forget to click the notification icon so you won't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching.